Hello everyone. In the gentle glow of their new home, life begins to bloom in simple yet precious ways. The house is lit up. Dee and Huyen raise chickens and ducks, and little Maya is finally sent to school. What was once only a dream now takes shape in laughter, daily work, and the hope of a brighter tomorrow. Each flicker of light, each cluck of the chickens, each step Maya takes toward learning is proof that love and perseverance can turn even the humblest house into a true home. The house stood quietly at the edge of the village, its bamboo walls glowing under the soft golden light of a kerosene lamp. For so long, it had been a place of silence and struggle, but now, laughter and warmth filled every corner. It was Dee who had worked tirelessly to rebuild it, brick by brick, plank by plank, with the hope of giving Huyen and little Maya not just a roof, but a true home. Every morning, before the sun rose above the rice fields, Dee could be seen outside feeding the chickens and ducks. Their cheerful clucking and quacking echoed through the yard, mingling with the sound of Maya's laughter. Huyen would step out with a basket in hand, her face softened by a smile that had once been rare. Together, they tended to their small farm, not for wealth but for peace, for the simple joy of building a life with their own hands. For Dee, there was no greater happiness than watching Maya run barefoot in the yard, chasing after the ducklings. She was growing fast, her hair tied into little braids, her voice full of songs she had learned at school. Sending Maya to school had been Dee and Huyen's greatest dream, a dream that once seemed impossible, when their lives were filled with fear and uncertainty. But now, every morning, Huyen would hold Maya's hand as they walked along the village path, her school bag bouncing against her back, her eyes bright with curiosity and hope. Life was still humble, but it was no longer heavy. The house, once empty and fragile, was now alive with warmth. In the evenings, Dee would sit on the porch repairing baskets while Huyen cooked over the fire, the smell of rice and fresh herbs drifting through the air. Maya would do her homework beside the lamp, her small fingers moving carefully across the page. The soft light shone on her face, and in that glow, Dee and Huyen saw the future they had fought so hard for. The chickens, the ducks, the schoolbooks, and the lamp, they were not riches in the eyes of the world, but to Dee, Huyen, and Maya, they were treasures, signs of a life rebuilt with love, sacrifice, and quiet strength. The house was not just lit up by the lamp, it was lit up by hope, by laughter, and by the promise that no matter how difficult the past had been, the future could still be beautiful. Every morning, the little courtyard outside the new house came alive with sounds of clucking and quacking. Dee built a small wooden coop where the chickens scratched at the earth, while a flock of ducks waddled eagerly toward the pond he had dug behind the house. The animals were not just food for the table, they were a sign of stability, of life slowly blooming again after so many storms. Huyen often laughed as she carried a basket of feed, her sleeves rolled up and her hair falling loose in the breeze. "Dee, you spoil them more than you spoil us," she teased. Watching him scatter rice husks for the ducks, Dee smiled quietly, his heart warming at the sight of her happiness. Meanwhile, Maya's world was expanding beyond the house. For the first time, she carried a little satchel on her back, her books tucked neatly inside. On the first day of school, she clutched Huyen's hand tightly, her eyes wide with both excitement and fear. Dee walked beside them, holding an umbrella to shield them from the sun, his step steady and protective. At the school gate, Maya turned back, her small voice trembling. "Mama, Uncle Dee, will you wait for me here?" Huyen knelt down and kissed her cheek, whispering, "Of course, my child. We'll always be waiting for you." Dee stood silently, his rough hands tightening around the umbrella, his chest heavy with emotion. Watching Maya walk into the classroom was like watching a fragile flower opening in the early light. It carried both beauty and the weight of time. That afternoon, when Maya returned, her laughter rang out even louder than before. She told stories of her new teacher, of children she wanted to befriend, and of songs she had learned. Dee and Huyen listened quietly, their eyes soft with pride. For them, sending Maya to school was more than an act of love. It was a promise that her life would not be bound by the struggles they had endured. The house glowed warmly that evening, a lantern flickering in the window as ducks quacked near the pond, and chickens nestled into the coop. Dee and Huyen sat together on the porch, watching Maya hum to herself while drawing on her school notebook. The hardships of the past seemed far away, replaced by the gentle rhythm of a home filled with hope. One evening, as the sun dipped low behind the bamboo groves, the family gathered for dinner. The smell of freshly cooked rice and stir-fried vegetables filled the little house. Maya, full of stories from school, talked non-stop, her small hands gesturing wildly as she described how she learned to write her name on the blackboard. Dee listened, his tired face glowing with pride. He had spent the whole day repairing a neighbor's fence to earn a little money, yet every word from Maya gave him strength. Huyen watched the two with quiet joy, her heart swelling at the sight of the bond forming between the man who had chosen to protect them and the child who trusted him completely. But beneath the warmth of that evening, a shadow lingered. Later that night, when Maya was asleep, Huyen sat on the porch with Dee. The moonlight silvered the edges of the roof, and the crickets sang softly in the fields. She spoke in a low voice, filled with worry. "Dee, I'm afraid one day her father's family might come looking for her. What if they take Maya away from us?" Dee remained silent for a moment, staring out into the dark fields. Then he turned to her, his voice firm but gentle. "As long as I'm here, no one will harm you or Maya. This house, this life we are building, it is our home now. No one can take that from us." Huyen's eyes shimmered with tears. She wanted to believe him, to trust in the quiet strength he carried. For the first time, she reached out and placed her hand over his, letting the silence between them speak of the bond slowly forming, fragile but real. Inside the house, Maya stirred in her sleep, murmuring words from a dream. The lantern flickered, casting soft shadows on the wooden walls. And outside, beneath the endless sky, Dee and Huyen sat side by side, silently vowing to protect the little world they had built no matter what storms might come. The next morning, the soft crowing of a rooster pulled Huyen awake. She rose quietly, careful not to disturb Maya, who was curled up in a blanket, her small hand resting on Bibi's fur. Stepping outside, Huyen saw Dee already at work, chopping wood with steady, deliberate strikes. His shirt was damp with sweat, but his movements carried a quiet rhythm, as though every swing was another promise he was making to this home. Huyen walked over with a basin of water and set it down beside him. "You should rest a little," she said softly. Dee smiled faintly, wiped his brow, and took a sip of water. "I'll rest when the roof is strong enough to keep Maya dry in the next rain," he answered. His words made Huyen's heart ache, both for his exhaustion and for the selfless love hidden in his actions. Later that day, the three of them went to the nearby market. Maya skipped ahead, her laughter echoing through the narrow lanes lined with stalls of fruit, vegetables, and handmade goods. Dee walked beside Huyen, carrying a small basket. People greeted them warmly, and old women selling guavas even teased, "What a lovely family you make." Huyen's cheeks flushed, and she quickly looked away. But she noticed Dee's quiet smile. Yet as they turned a corner, Huyen froze. At the far end of the market, a figure stood watching them. A tall man in a dark shirt, his eyes sharp, scanning the crowd. Her breath caught in her throat. It was one of her ex-husband's cousins, someone who surely still carried ties to the past she had run from. Dee noticed her sudden stillness. "What's wrong?" he whispered. Huyen shook her head quickly, forcing a smile for Maya's sake. But inside, fear clawed at her chest. If the man had seen them, it would only be a matter of time before word reached her ex-husband's family. The fragile peace they had built might soon be threatened. That night, as the crickets sang again, Huyen lay awake beside Maya, staring at the roof. She knew the days ahead would test them. And as Dee sat silently outside with his hands clenched, he too felt the weight of what was coming. The little home they had built stood strong, but shadows were drawing near. In the quiet glow of a small countryside home, Dee, Huyen, and little Maya discovered what many in this world often overlook. True happiness does not come from riches, nor from grand possessions, but from love, unity, and the courage to build a simple yet meaningful life. Raising chickens and ducks, working in the fields, and watching Maya walk to school with bright eyes were not signs of poverty, but of progress and resilience. Each egg collected, each vegetable harvested, and each smile shared became proof that small efforts, done with love, could transform hardship into hope. This story reminds us that wealth is not measured in gold, but in laughter echoing through a home, in a child's future secured through education, and in the quiet companionship of two people who refuse to give up on one another. The strength to endure, the willingness to work hard, and the decision to love deeply, these are the treasures that time cannot take away. Just as Dee and Huyen discovered, life's beauty lies not in chasing what is fleeting, but in cherishing what lasts. Family, love, and the belief that even the humblest home can shine brighter than a palace if it is filled with warmth.